Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you've had a wonderful weekend and enjoyed some of the FA Cup coverage. Before I tell you the unique nature of this team selection, firstly, I must say thank you. We did indeed hit 6,000 subscribers a couple of days ago, and for that, I am very grateful. Not just for the subscriber count, not just for the like count on videos or even the views, but also the comments and just general amount of support that I'm getting. Thank you very, very, very much. It does not go underappreciated. Now, in this team selection, it was probably the hardest one I've had to make in a very long time, purely because the decisions I've had to make were the hardest ones I've had to make in a very long time. So you will be seeing the outcomes of those and why or why not I've done certain things. We will have specific player insights because they're essential considering the efficiency of transfers at the moment. I would say they're maybe at an all-time high for the season, considering the doubles coming up. And even the chip strategy for 29 onwards isn't so far away anymore. We are into the 20s when it comes to the game weeks, and you will have transfer plans in a slightly different nature. I will be showing you my team all the way up till game week 26, with the moves included, how the team lines up, what the captaincy looks like, just so you can get a better idea of potentially how to plan. We've hit 6,000 subscribers, and now it's time to hit 7,000. So if you are a regular viewer around here who has not subscribed, or if you're a new viewer around here who has not subscribed, consider doing so to cash in on some of the luck that many of us have been having this season, or just to support myself. They do say what goes around comes around. Without anything else needing to be said, however, let's hop into the video. Following his 9-pointer on Monday night, resultant of some very good saves, a good defensive performance, and some slightly interesting finishing, we are now down 19 points on sales since the transfer to Sanchez in game week 12. But none the matter, there is always time to turn it around. And 19 points is not too much. It's starting to get to the territory where it's becoming a little bit too much for a goalkeeper especially. But, there's still time for him to bring it back, albeit less than I maybe would have thought, as you will see when we get to transfer plans. Honestly, after that 9-pointer against Wolves, I got WhatsApp messages, DMs on X, messages on X, ads on X, YouTube comments, all saying sell supremacy, sell supremacy. I was like, look what I started and look what it's doing to me. But like I said, none the matter. This fixture is a really interesting one when it comes to Sanchez's prospects. I think Bournemouth are one of the more difficult sides to keep out in the league in terms of them not scoring a goal, simply because one of their biggest weapons is that high press, and it's so well coached. But it's not just the fact that they've just got such a good high press, right, and such a good coach. They've actually got talent, and they've got players. Between Semenyo, Dango Atara, Justin Kluivert, they can still hurt teams. They absolutely can still hurt teams, even without an eye. And I think with the way we play, I would say our game model has a higher risk profile than most, at least within the league. Probably less so in a relative sense compared to previous seasons, given what teams are doing this year. Even the teams lower down in the league all want to play with some serious hustle and bustle and a very proactive style. But with all that being said, I do think there's a chance, just a chance of a clean sheet, because of course losing your 9 is never going to be a good thing. And then the other big thing is the man who was back today, and I'm actually not talking about the Chelsea captain Reece James, but rather Romeo Lavia. Maresca's spoken about it. We've spoken about it on this channel many a time. Having that defensive capacity, that dueling capacity, that physicality at the base of our midfield is so vital to how we play, and also just us being a much better team and a better defense. With him being back and the fact that he was in the starting lineup from today, the fact that he got 45 minutes, suggests to me that especially against a side like Bournemouth, who will really test you in a physical sense, I think he's going to start. And I think that increases our chances of keeping a clean sheet by quite a significant margin. I also think it helps Palmer, and we'll get on to that later. So for all of those reasons, I'm bullish. I am bullish, but you know what? Anything can happen in FPL, and regardless, it's not like I'm going to be selling him this week. It would be a very inefficient use of a transfer. And look, okay, fine, maybe down the line, like in 23, I could move to Alisson. I'm not going to. You'll see what I'm going to be doing with Liverpool. But at least this week, I really just don't think he's a sell in pretty much any case at all. In the introduction, I spoke to you about how this particular game week involved some of the hardest decisions I've had to make in a very long time. And the defense was not exempt from that. Firstly, let's talk about the starting lineup, and then we'll talk about the potential transfer out. Lewis Hall, I mean, that's the easiest one of the lot, right? He's in brilliant form. Newcastle are in brilliant form. He has so many avenues to points, and it's why I like him, just almost as a season keeper. Underlaps to an extent, but even just popping up into that left half space in some form, well, he does it enough, whereby I think maybe one day we'll get a return from that particular area, whether that be a cross or a shot. Overlaps, of course, crosses, some shots, set pieces. And the fact that he's so good in the final third because of his technical quality. I wouldn't be surprised if one day we see him like combine with Gordon and Joelinton, get played in behind, cut it back to Isak, and they score a goal like that. They nearly scored a goal like that, actually. So I just think he's the most brilliant asset. He's been so good to me, and there's no way I'm benching him. But this is where it got challenging. Because to be honest with you, I don't really like any of these three. I think going away to West Ham for Robinson will be tough, even with the fact that he's playing wing back. The one thing about him as a wing back is, right, when you think of most wing backs, you do think of goals and assists, but I don't really think of goals when it comes to Anthony Robinson. I really do think of assists. I also don't think he wanders too much into that left half space. It really is those outside channels and then hitting those balls into there through crosses, right? West Ham obviously will have some new manager bounce. Every team seems to always do that. West Ham are at home and they've got enough firepower to hurt Fulham. So for all of those reasons, I wasn't particularly bullish on him. But neither was I with Gabriel. I don't think Arsenal look great at the moment. I don't think they look defensively great at the moment. And I think Spurs look going forward, like obviously you saw the game against Liverpool, right? They were impressive, in my opinion, and they've just got enough firepower to wipe out pretty much any clean sheet. This was something we spoke about, for example, when we were considering starting Lewis Hall away to Spurs. And I always said that I think people are really underappreciating, irrespective of the injuries that they had, the firepower that this Spurs side hold, especially considering the system they play. And I'm not expecting Arsenal to keep a clean sheet against me. Even if I start Gabriel, I hope it gets wiped for, in terms of my rank, right? Totally that. But if you hold double defense, I wish you the best of luck. However, the reason he gets a nod, pretty much the only reason he gets the nod, is because Spurs are notoriously poor at defending set pieces. They won't be as bad now that Vicario is out the side because they'll have a keeper, especially a confident keeper in Kinski, who can now come and claim crosses, at least better than Vicario did. And yeah, Gabriel's the biggest box threat in the league as well when Mikel Merino doesn't play. So if he plays, it goes down hugely. But I'll just play. And even if it does, so be it. Like, still got a chance, right, Gabriel? It's just going to be a lower chance. So yeah, that's why I'm playing Gabriel, mainly for the set piece threat. But I really don't expect them to keep a clean sheet. Nor do I with Fulham, and nor do I with Manchester City either. I mean, going away to Brentford with the way they're currently defending, the lack of legs in midfield, how susceptible they are to transition, but not just transition. That's the thing with City. It always used to be transition. And like Pep always spoke about this. And for example, in the season when they just won the league every year, and it was Walker high and wide, Foden started right wing, but come into that 10 role, and they were almost left like a back two. They were so susceptible to transitions. So he changes it, right? But now they can get hurt in just general build-up when the opposition have the ball, right? They can literally just play straight through them. And that's a big concern. Then you consider the side that they're facing, Brentford, their strengths and their qualities, and their quality, full stop. And it's looking unlikely. But you know what? They beat Leicester 2-0. Fortunately so. They beat West Ham 4-1. Fortunately so. They won 8-0. Maybe they're just turning a new leaf. And maybe they just needed a bit of luck. They certainly didn't have it in their bad run. So maybe they're getting some back now. And he's got goal threat. That's one of the main reasons I'm starting him, if not the main reason. He's got goal threat. And I can pair him with a certain someone, which gives me a little more upside. And the man alluded to is Phil Foden. But before we get onto him, you will notice something interesting about this midfield and defensive unit. Not a single transfer has been made as of yet. So why? When I was so adamant that I was going to make a transfer, why? Well, we'll come on to that and we can discuss why I haven't made a transfer, not only in the midfield, but also the defense, because Oscar Gvardiol was not too far from getting the boot. Starting with Foden, though. Foden was the most likely to leave the team in place for Eberechi Eze. So why haven't I done that? Well, there is a planning aspect to it, which you will see down the line, and that certainly holds some weight, but of all the decisions I've made, planning was the least important variable in this particular one, where it wasn't for the rest of them. I don't have for you a very elaborate justification or a bulletproof justification as to why I have not sold Foden for Eze, because I think it is so close. And I went back, well, I didn't really go back and forth. I was just struggling to come to what I thought was a correct conclusion, but I have got here now, I think. I think that Eze's fixture next week isn't that great away to West Ham, and that significantly damages the pair of fixtures he has in terms of viewing it as a pair with Leicester away, West Ham away. The reason is I expect Potter to go 5-4-1, 5-3-2 off the ball, a lot more compactness within the defensive unit, and I can see Palace potentially struggling to break that down. Whereas I think Brentford away, to be honest, they probably go 5-3-2 or some variation of the 5 at the back. And if Foden is to get shipped off to the right wing, which is likely with De Bruyne coming back into the side, considering he didn't start in the FA Cup or get any minutes, then that's not particularly great for him. But I wouldn't be surprised if he gets minutes at 10 across Brentford or Ipswich or even both. because I'm not sure De Bruyne's legs can sustain 90 minutes in either of those two games. I think they were lucky not to get punished against Leicester. They were lucky to not get punished against West Ham. I'm not sure Brentford and Ipswich would afford them the same luxury, considering the firepower that both hold. So it was very close. I just thought that Foden looks okay to me at the moment, and it does offer me more flexibility down the line. But if any of you are to make this move, I don't think you can. I can't say it's a bad move at all, and I'm all for it if you do wish to go there. And that is one thing, by the way. It does offer me more flexibility down the line, specifically in the form of Ismail Assar, which would actually allow me to save one transfer in a particular spot as well. And I'll show you that then. I spoke about how Oscar Gvardiol could leave the side, and if he was going to do so, it would be in the place of, or it would be for the place of Virgil van Dijk, because I am really looking to take this defense more towards being Liverpool heavy so that I can prepare for the double game week, but not just the double game week. Let's just say it falls in 24, right? So it's Bournemouth away, Everton away. Well, either side of that, they'll have Wolves at home or Ipswich at home and Wolves at home, which is very, very, very good. With all due respect, right? Both very good sides, both got attacking talent, but with respect to how the league currently is, they are two very good fixtures for the best team in the league to have. So I could have done that, and that would have required me to sell Foden as well. But, if I don't sell Foden, I don't have enough funds to go to Virgil van Dijk directly, and I'm not going to Daniel Munoz because I think it's a waste of a transfer. And to be honest, I think Leicester could score. They're a good attacking side. I think the defense is where they really need work, but they're a good attacking side. When it comes to the rest of the team, I mean, Salah and Palmer, I'm hardly going to drop them. Well, I mean, I could, but I'm not going to this week. Gordon, again, I could, but I'm not going to this week. But you'll see that Morgan Rogers starts over João Pedro, and many of you will be surprised at that, I imagine, especially because João Pedro's got Ipswich away. My thinking is that if he's had to have a scan and he's had an ankle injury this season, it must be somewhat serious, even if he said okay, right? Even if he's going to be back for this Ipswich game, it was serious enough for him to go and have an MRI. With that being said, I think he has reduced expected minutes as a result, especially because Ruta played so well in the FA Cup as well, so maybe he can be trusted with some more minutes. And he could potentially start on the bench. Brighton could potentially be having a bad game, as they've had against a lot of the lower sides, and then he will need to come on. Whereas with Rodgers, especially away at Everton, I know I'm pretty much getting 90, and if not, like 70 plus for sure, right? And even 70 is pretty rare, should be higher than that. He's also in top form. He scored in the FA Cup. He scored before he got suspended, obviously hauled against City. He's been absolutely magnificent. And as such, I'm very comfortable starting him away to Everton. Could it be better? Yes. But for all of the reasons I've stated, I'm happy with it. Moving on to the forwards, João Pedro and Nicholas Jackson were both on the chopping block, but they survived, especially João Pedro. He was very close to getting shipped off for Mateta, as Foden was for Eze, because I needed to do the Foden move to facilitate that. Similarly, with Gvardiol, I needed to do the Foden move to facilitate that. But if I wasn't going to do that move, I probably wasn't going to do any, nor do Jackson to Mateta. So here we stand. One thing about Mateta is, whilst I'd absolutely love to have him, and I have pretty much nothing bad to say about him as an asset, obviously I don't like the West Ham away fixture too much, but it's not that big of a deal. I'd still happily have him for it. He didn't train yesterday, which I think is a fairly big deal. He's probably not 100% fit. When you've got a £35 million striker in Eddie Nketiah knocking on the door every week, he probably eats into his minutes if he's not 100% fit as well, and the game's going well enough at least, or they need a little bit of a different dynamic. So I think that's one reason that maybe gives me a little comfort as to not going him. But if any of you are to be going for Eze or Mateta, then enjoy it. I think your prospects are really good this week. And if somehow I could play with if somehow I could just take João Pedro up to Mateta for free, I absolutely would. I'm not selling Nicholas Jackson because I still believe in him. I still believe in him. I spoke about in Everything You Need to Know. I don't think the performance against Crystal Palace was anywhere near as bad as people made it out to be, especially from an FPL standpoint. I think the fixtures are good. He has a really nice run in 27 and 28 and a fixture in 29, which you'll probably like him for, especially as Isak's fixtures decline and then Mateta doesn't have a fixture in 29 either. So I think for now, I keep him. If he keeps failing again and again and again, okay, yeah, fine. I might have to consider just moving him out for Mateta, and it'll save me some funds as well. But for now, for all of the reasons discussed and Everything You Need to Know, which I would strongly recommend you go and check out because it really did cover a lot. And if you have a question, it's likely answered in there, and that too in depth. It makes sense for me to keep him at this point. João Pedro, I'm not overly excited at the prospect of owning him. I'll probably play Rodgers, I think, this week, and then I'll play João Pedro next, João Pedro the week after, and then it's Rodgers for a while. So they rotate quite nicely together, which I guess helps. I'm not in love with the fixtures in terms of how he might interact with them, but Welbeck is back. So if he can get up to scratch and mainly up to a certain level of fitness, then João Pedro could go back to playing in the 10 and look a little bit more threatening as an FPL asset. I'm mainly keeping him because he's such a good facilitator, right? If him and Mateta were the same price, I'd be selling him, but they're not. I mean, Isak, similar to Salah and Palmer, I mean, there's nothing really else to do apart from start him. But you could consider captaining him, so let's find out who I've captained. For the third week in a row, Cole Palmer will have the captaincy armband. Two things to discuss, first of all. One, there are a few comments which say that I have a Chelsea bias, hence why I captain Palmer. I would like to say that this is absolutely not true. I would happily pack my team with 3 Spurs players, 3 Arsenal players, 3 West Ham players, 3 Palace players, and 3 Fulham players, obviously all London clubs, if it meant that I was going to have the best season I could possibly have. It just so happens that I think Cole Palmer is the best option, which brings me to my second point. I don't captain Cole Palmer for the sake of it or for the fact that he's someone to bet against the template. It's a benefit to me, in my opinion, that he's allowing me to bet against the template. But that's just a benefit. He's not the reason. That's not the reason for doing that. The reason for doing it is that I do genuinely think, just like I did last week, that he is the best captain this week from a footballing perspective. And yes, the incentive of having a lower effective ownership certainly helps me do that decision, but only a little bit. It's mainly because I do genuinely think from a football perspective, he is the best option. Now, for those of you who want to understand why, like I said, the analysis is in everything you need to know, as it is with Mohamed Salah and Alexander Isak. Tomorrow, in Solving Your Problems, I will be discussing the Haaland captaincy. I will be discussing the Bruno Fernandes captaincy because people have asked for that. So if you've got any other questions as well, any other topic, not just captaincy, put them in the comments. I do still think that Forest could get a result at Liverpool. I've got the vice captaincy on armband on Salah because trust him. And I know that he can pretty much turn it on against anyone. And he's someone who always pretty much rises to the occasion. And he loves the big games within the Premier League. But realistically, it shouldn't make too much difference. I've spoken about why I don't think Isak's the best captain for me this week. And I have him as my least favorite, even though the polls have him out in front. I have put a poll out on X, about like 2.5k votes. And it had Palmer around like 20%, Salah like 30, and then Isak at 40, with the rest being other, then like a few percentage points each way to make it 100. But yeah, I'll be going Cole Palmer, and I very much look forward to seeing what he can do. The other thing that helps me with this captaincy, and it's not the reason I'm doing it, but it helps, I have Jackson, right? So if Cole Palmer's gonna hit, there's a decent chance he hits in a combination with Nicholas Jackson. So the upside to my team is slightly bigger. As it says on the graphic, in seasons gone by, I've certainly made 2 mistakes. One, not planning well enough and not planning enough. And also, last season, one big mistake I made was being too aggressive in and around double game weeks and not planning for them and not preparing for them, I would say, in a good enough manner. However, this season, I've learned my lessons and I'm not going to be making that mistake. And I will be showing you how I'm looking to avoid that mistake, hopefully so that some of you will have a better grasp of how to also avoid that mistake. So let me show you my current plan. There is a very good reason why I've taken a different approach to transfer plans in this video, and I've actually gone and shown you the team week on week on week and showing you the transfer plans and showing you what the benching order looks like, because every little bit of knowledge is so useful now, given how delicate the game is currently. And not only that, it also will help you prioritize which players you should plan for, which players you shouldn't, thus allowing you to optimize for double game week 24-25 and thereafter, right? Because every single move has big implications on your season. I will give you an example. If I showed you the plan of selling Foden and João Pedro to Eze Mateta, which is the move that I was really trying to get myself to make, the entire season, my entire team for the entire season looks completely different to what it does now. It means a different Liverpool defender. It means different transfers in 28 and 29s. It means more surgery down the line. It means so many things. So if you make one wrong move now, I genuinely think it could derail your season in some sense. Whereas before, I would say the game is a little bit more forgiving. So that's why I'm going to do this and talk you through all these things. Game week 22 is one of the more simple weeks. I'll roll to get myself up to 3 free transfers. Ipswich away is a good fixture for 2 City boys, even though their prospects are very weird at the moment, and I would say difficult to predict. And then I will bench Rodgers because he's got Arsenal. It's one of the tougher fixtures. And I will start João Pedro away to Manchester United. In week 23, however, you can see is a completely different ballgame. I will be looking to make 4 transfers, but potentially 3. Robinson to Trent Alexander-Arnold, Vardiol to Virgil van Dijk, Foden to Eze, and Sanchez to Henderson. Okay, the reason I'm going Sanchez to Henderson is because, as you can see, I have 0.0 million in the bank now. So I needed that 0.2 million. And Henderson has good fixtures from 23 to 26. He has better fixtures than Sanchez at least. And then I can reverse the move because I'll get to 5 free transfers pretty quickly with this strategy. Or I hope I will, at least. Okay, I really would like Trent and Virgil for the double. Because it's difficult for me to justify an attacker when all of their expected minutes are so low compared to their competitors in the category. So, for example, Diaz, let's just say on average 65, even Gakpo around 65. As well as they're playing, it's just not high enough for me to go and justify. What if they get a benching? Whereas I think with Virgil and Trent, it's very unlikely either the two get a benching, and they've got such high ceilings attached to them anyway, right? I would honestly say Virgil's ceiling alongside Trent is more realistic than Gakpo's, because for Gakpo to hit a 15-pointer, effectively 2 goals and assists, I know that'll be a 16-pointer. Whereas Trent and Virgil van Dijk have to hit a clean sheet, which is certainly feasible for one of the better defenses in the league, and score a goal. And considering Van Dijk's aerial ability and considering Trent's ability to kick a ball, the goal's always on for both of them. More so for Trent, I would. So for those reasons, I'd really like them. And like I mentioned earlier, either side of the double, Ipswich at home, Wolves at home, great. And obviously Everton could fall into 25, but irrespective, it'll be the same 4 fixtures that I'll be getting. However, I need money to facilitate that, right? So I'll move Foden to Eze, and this is why I said that if I don't do Foden to Eze now, if Sarr emerges as a better option, then I can do that move, keep some money in the bank, and I won't have to make the Sanchez one. So I'll have an extra free transfer down the line. So I hope now it makes a little bit more sense. So this is absolutely the plan, and I think this team looks great for this week as well, and it will look great in the doubles, as you will see. You will have noticed João Pedro got another start in the previous game week with his fixture of Everton at home compared to Rodgers' West Ham at home, because I expect West Ham to be a bit more compact than they previously were, and I think they've got a bit more talent than Everton. Apologies. However, I expressed that the rotation between the pair is good. So where Rodgers plays the first game this week, João Pedro plays the next 2, and then Rodgers plays in 24. Marginally, again, you can make the case for starting João Pedro, but I prefer Morgan Rodgers. As you can see, if the double was to fall here, I've got triple Liverpool in place. I can hit the triple captain on Salah, which we'll talk about at another time. I'm not super keen on it, and I would much, much prefer the double to fall in 25. I think it would make this Liverpool trio, especially the triple captaincy, would just increase the value of it by some way. So I really hope it falls in 25. But regardless, we will respond as is fit, considering whenever it falls. And apart from that, the team again looks strong, right? So there's not too much to do. Obviously, the game week rating is slightly down given the fixture makeup of the side. But again, it's quite strong. One thing you will notice here is Gabriel is benched. And I think it just makes a lot of sense considering the fixtures. And he can get benched in quite a few weeks within this rotation plan, simply because Arsenal, I don't think, have these fixtures. And I'm not too keen on the defense at the moment. Moving on to game week 25, I will be rolling again to get to 3 free transfers in 26 for reasons you shall see. But it's probably quite difficult to get a better defense than that, right? A Trent and Virgil, if it potentially is the double game week, at home to Wolves, away to Everton. Gabriel plays Leicester, and then Henderson plays Everton. That is a really, really strong team. Newcastle finally gets a break, and this week Rodgers starts again. So again, showing you the utility of having both Rodgers and João Pedro in this wonderful rotation. Finally, the double will have definitely concluded by this point, and we will get to game week 26, where Newcastle face their fixture swing. I would say their fixtures get a fair bit tougher, so I could potentially get out of Gordon and go to someone who has brilliant fixtures, or very good fixtures at that point, in Brian Mbeumo. And obviously, as you can see, Liverpool have Manchester City at home, and then they have Newcastle at home straight after that. So I could look to get out of like one of Trent or Virgil, get some money from that. And let's say I was to sell Trent, right, down to like a 4.5, take like 2.7, 2.5 million-ish in cash. That's a lot of money, and I could do a lot with that. I could upgrade pretty big with that, pretty much anywhere on the pitch. Pedro, Eze, even Gordon himself, if I wanted to go back to Foden as an example, or even Rodgers, who knows. So this plan is very flexible, and it affords me the upside. That's why I chose not to go with Eze and Mateta this week, just to allow myself, I would say, a much safer plan, and one with a lot of upside, and one I would say is smarter down the line. Like, for example, if I did do the other move, there are a lot of implications with Palace and Newcastle likely to blank in 29. This just makes my life a lot easier, and I would say investing in Trent and Virgil when they have such good fixtures is also quite smart practice. That is all she wrote for this video, ladies and gentlemen. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, drop a like on the video. 300 likes is the aim. As I said, we are now pushing to 7,000 subscribers. So for those of you who have not subscribed, consider doing so. I would be greatly appreciative. I shall see you tomorrow for solving your problems. Make sure to drop in the comments what you would like. And until then, goodbye and have a great day.